The Battle of Adwa was a culmination of several battles between the Ethiopian and the Italian armies for nearly a decade. Emperor Yohannes and his general Ras Alula Abanega would defeat the Italians in Sahati and Dogali in 1887. The final victory that would come to secure Ethiopian independence for decades to come would take place in Adwa, central Tigrai, in 1896. The Battle of Adwa is considered monumental as the first victory of an African nation against a European counterpart in centuries. In an introduction to the book, The Battle of Adwa, Reflections on Ethiopia's History Against European Colonialism, editors Paulus Milikas and Getachew Mataferia would write that Adwa holds a significant place in African history. It challenges the demanding Western conceptions of African cultures. It demonstrates that being targeted for colonization is not a prelude to fatality and that colonialism can be defeated. On March 2, 1896, would come a sign of independence and gave courage to other Africans to fight against European colonialism. In the mid-19th century, the concept of Pan-Africanism would start to emerge. The social movement would bring together Black people and people of African origin unite to work on a common interest of Black empowerment and resistance against European colonialism. By the late 1940s, with independence of many African countries, Africans took the lead in the Pan-Africanist movement. Most important African figures of that movement would become Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, Jomo Kenyatta of Kenya, as well as Emperor Haile Selassie of Ethiopia, as well as many more. Significant progress over the past few decades would redefine Pan-Africanism, no longer fighting against slavery and colonialism. Pan-Africanism now mostly stands for integration and connection of infrastructure and socio-economic activity of African nations. Intellectuals across the continent emphasize that Pan-Africanism today must be to reinforce the links between the nations by establishing and strengthening the common institutions, harnessing the human capital by integrating the continents and providing avenues for intra-African trade, so that this would lead to the improvement of individual lives through the improvement of access to education, healthcare centers, and food security. As the Organization for African Unity would be succeeded by the African Union in 2002 to further promote social, political, and economic integration of Africa. But the noble cause of Pan-Africanism has often been abused by African leaders across the continent, hoping to escape accountability for human rights violations. The Ethiopian government and Eritrean regime have been screaming the mantra of Pan-Africanism for over past year. The Ethiopian government has gone so far to claim that the silence of some African countries in the face of gross violation of human rights, the use of famine as a weapon of war, and the involvement of non-African states in the arming and financing of the Ethiopian government is a symbol of their African solidarity.
The resolution of our internal matters was made exceedingly difficult by the role played by external actors. I wish to take this opportunity to thank you all for your support, solidarity, and understanding as we underwent these trying times.
Now, Hussein Belai, a lecturer of political science at Maghale University, says reducing Pan-Africanism to a relationship between three dictators and their ambitions to escape accountability would be a desecration of the noble cause of Pan-Africanism today.
The alliance between Abiy, Isaias, and Formaggio that we were witnessing cannot be considered as an alternative for IGAD or the previously existing functional regional blocks or organizations of conflict resolution or development cooperative frameworks. So far, what we have seen from this alliance of three dictators of the Horn, and the outcome is war. I see no major development project. I don't see any railway project between Ethiopia, Djibouti, or Ethiopia and Eritrea, or Ethiopia and Somali, or I see no major development corridor or a developmental aspiration from the alliance of this emerging friendship of dictators. What we can say is it's an alliance or a friendship based on vengeance or for vendetta reasons.
But allowing Abiy Ahmed to lead a Pan-African movement would be wrong for multiple reasons. For more than his corrupt intentions, Abiy Ahmed has at least one occasion let it slip that he did not believe he was black.
የጎንደርና የባህር ዳር ኤርፖርት አሁንም እኮ ለጥገና ቢሊየንስ እየጠየቀን ያለው
ጁንታ ያፈረሰው በሮኬት በእኛው ሮኬት ማንም ሰው ደንታው አይደለም። ባህር ዳር ላይ ሰው ሞቷል። ጎንደር ሮኬት ሲተኮስ እንደ ቤተሰብ ደባርቅ ላይ ያለቁ ሰዎች እንደ ቤተሰብ አንድ ፋሚሊ ያለቃል። አርሶ አደሮች ማንም ሰው ያነሳም። አረ የትግራዩ ይቅር ቤኒሻንጉል ላይ መተከል ዞን ስላለው ጭፍጨፋና መፈናቀል ማንም ሰው ያነሳም። ለምን? እነሱ ጥቁሮች ናቸው፣ አርሶ አደሮች ናቸው፣ ምንም ገንዘብ የላቸው፣ ፌስቡክ የላቸው፣ ሎቢ አይቀጥሩ። ምን ያስፈልጋል ስለነሱ መናገር? አንድ ሰው አይናገርም።
Now Hossein emphasizes that the idea of Habesha exceptionalism and at the same time attempts to exploit the Pan-Africanism movement to escape accountability for your role is disempowering, and African people stand starkly in contrast with one another.
I don't think, for instance, in so many instances, I don't think Abiy believed that he is black. He doesn't consider himself as a black person. We have seen in many instances mentioning relegating issues, what we might call the quote-unquote Ethiopian or the Habesha exceptionalism. We have seen that. But he tries to exploit and manipulate the Pan-African notion of blackness and the black resistance, while at the same time crushing the demands of his own people in Ethiopia.
But if we look beyond how Abiy Ahmed chooses to identify himself, we also find that the leader of one of the largest nations in the African continent has also taken part in perpetrating anti-black rhetoric.
በቆየው የአሜሪካ የአገዛዝ ስርዓት ውስጥ በጣም የተጎዳ የሚባል ማህበረሰብ ጥቁርና ጁ ነው። ሁለቱም ተገርፈዋል፣ ተጨቆነዋል፣ ታስረዋል፣ እንዳይሰሩ ሀብት እንዳያደረጁ ሆነዋል። ልዩነቱ ጁ ከሲቪል ራይት በኋላ ትንሽ መብት መታየት ሲጀምር ዘፈኑ፣ ግጥሙ፣ ፊልሙ፣ ድራማ ወደፊት ሆነ። እንዴት ዓለምን ኮንከር ማድረግ እንደሚችል ኢኮኖሚክ ፓወር መፍጠር እንደሚችል ያስባል። ጥቁር ደግሞ እዚህ ላይ ቆሞ ትናንትና ኮገረፉ፣ ገደሉ፣ እንዲያደረጉ ይላል። አሁን ያለው ትውልድ ትናንትና ውስጥ እንዲኖር አደረገው። እነዚህ ደግሞ አሁን ነው ነገ ውስጥ እንዲያስብ አደረጉት። 50 ዓመት አልሞላም ጁ ሀብታም ሆነ፣ ጁ ፓወርፉል ሆነ፣ ጥቁር ነፃ ደሃ ሆነ። ነፃነቱን አግኝቷል፣ መዝፈን ይችላል፣ ግን ደህንነቱን መቀየር አልቻለም።
While the victory of Adwa is sure to continue to be an important milestone in African history, Adwa should always be marked with deep reflection on how we can take the Pan-African movement forward.